This is a media presentation which will give you an overview of the textbook chapter Emotion and Facial Expressions. This chapter aims to use the tools of information, tables and diagrams, and also interactive quizzes to give the reader a historical and theoretical understanding of the link between emotions and expressions. The website starts with an overview of the origins of facial expressions research, and it is noted that the work of Darwin, Ekman and Friesen to be the most influential theorists in the study of facial expressions. Darwin cited the phenomenon that particular expressions represent an individual's emotions, and he made three distinctive points in explaining his reasons behind this. Darwin's most prominent claim, which was published, was that facial expressions are universal and seen as being expressed and identified in the same way all around the world. This principle of Darwin's led to the further work and study of Paul Ekman and Friesen. These theorists, in a study in 1971, tested the hypothesis of the universal nature of expressions, and the results confirmed facial expressions to be represented in the same way across different cultures. Along with the study of the universal nature of facial expressions, Ekman and Friesen in 1978 developed a system which measured and described particular facial behavior. This method is still being used today and is known as the facial coding system. The study of Ekman and Friesen and the process of the facial coding system is elaborated more in the textbook chapter. The main theories in which are mentioned within the website are the innateness of facial expressions, the expression-feeling link, the feedback, readout and behavioral ecology hypothesis, and also the spontaneity and voluntary nature of expressions. This section of the presentation will give you a brief overview of the nature of the most difficult of these theories, and also explain any relevant tables and diagrams that accompany them. The first theory is the expression-feeling link, and it describes how different facial movements are linked to particular feelings which represent a certain emotion, and that these expressions and feelings are the result of an emotional stimulus. There are two hypotheses in which describe this link, and in this website are represented in both theory and diagram. Diagram 1 explains the first hypothesis, as it shows how both the expression and feeling are both linked to form a particular emotion. Diagram 2 describes the second hypothesis, which represents that it is the feelings that activate the corresponding expressions. And as you can see in the diagram, the feelings of despair result in a tear and the emotion of sadness. The facial feedback hypothesis is one of the most controversial and widely researched facial hypotheses. The hypothesis holds the notion that the construction of an expression will produce the subjective feeling of an emotion. And as you can see in the diagram at the bottom of the slide, the hypothesis suggests that muscles in which form an expression, like a smile, send a message to the brain which then produces the feeling of joy. The final theory that we'll be discussing in this video is the readout and behavioral ecology hypothesis, which explains the behavioral function of facial expressions. The readout hypothesis explains that expression is an automated response to a stimulus, which recurs regardless of whether you are alone or in the company of others. The behavioral ecology hypothesis, on the other hand, specifically refers to the behavior of facial expressions as being tools to express one's social motives. And as you can see in the table, the expression of sadness, according to the behavioral ecology hypothesis, suggests one's need for comfort from others. Ekman and Tompkins in 1969 listed the main emotions as being happiness, sadness, anger, disgust, fear and surprise. The textbook chapter looks at the nature of these emotions and pays particular attention to the main expressions and muscles being used. In this next slide, we look at a picture of the main muscles of the face and list and describe how some of these muscles are associated with particular emotions. In happiness, the zygomaticus major is a muscle around the mouth which lifts to form a smile. The procerus muscle is a dominant muscle used in the expression of anger, and it forces the frown in between the eyes and lowers the eyebrows. In sadness, the depressor labii inferius muscle is the main muscle around the mouth which lowers and quivers the bottom lip when someone is expressing the feelings of sadness. I now invite you to continue your study of facial expressions and look through the textbook chapter. Most of the theories and historical origins in which you have just heard are supported throughout the webpage with intriguing research papers, pictures, diagrams, tables and learning features. Thank you for listening and enjoy learning about facial expressions.